This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs.
You hold on to your license plates and hang them on the wall. You dance every chance you get with your girl at Green Hall. You take some time to spend the night down in Fredericksburg, where you don't mess with Texas. You love her. Yeah, you love her.
My guest today on Catholic Forum is country music singer and songwriter Bradley Banning. Bradley, welcome to Catholic Forum. Happy Advent and Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Bob.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I've kind of came across your social media, your Facebook posts, and I thought, gee, this is you're kind of unique out there, and so we want to talk about you and your music. Before we get into anything, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do we need to know about you?
Yeah, I guess I love songwriting and I love country music. My dad wrote songs growing up and had some success as a songwriter in Nashville and in Texas, and that's all I've ever really wanted to do. I grew up Methodist, and then in 2015 I converted and became Catholic. And it's been a journey the last 10 years figuring out how my songwriting and my faith work together. And here in the last year, I feel like I'm getting a little bit more of a hang of really what my message is. And people started calling me a Catholic country artist. And so I've been rolling with it. And my goal all along has been to write music that doesn't conflict with my Catholic faith. And that was really a call that God started putting on my heart once I became Catholic, and I started kind of seeing the songs that I had written in the past in a new light and became conscious really of what I was writing and inviting God into the space when I was writing songs. And so I'm a Catholic convert and I'm a Catholic country artist.
Bradley, tell us a little bit about your conversion. How did that come about?
Oh, long story. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I kind of came to this realization that when I went to church on Sundays, I my week went a lot smoother. And so I had moved to Nashville. I moved to Nashville, lived there for 10 years, worked in the music business. But I grew up Methodist, and really when I moved to Nashville, I was looking for a church that kind of felt like home, felt like the church I grew up in, and wasn't ever really able to find anything like that. So I tried a bunch of different churches, lots of Bible churches and non-denom and Baptist churches and all the Methodist churches I could find within the diocese, pretty much. And something just wasn't something was missing, and I didn't know what it was. And about a year into realizing that, I need to go to church on Sundays, I was driving to church with my girlfriend at the time, and we had found a Methodist church that we both liked, and I we had an argument, and we were like, you know what, let's just go our separate ways this morning. I dropped her back off at home and I went home, and I was like, well, I missed church today. And my roommate at the time was having a reversion. He grew up Catholic in Northern Ireland. And he was like, well, hey, why don't you just go to mass with me tonight at 6 p.m.? And I was like, okay, well, that's Jesus. Yeah, sure, I'll go. And that was how I ended up at mass for the first time. Gosh, that must have been 2012, 2013. And we went to mass, and I knelt down on that kneeler. I saw everybody else kneeling on a kneeler, and I'd never seen kneelers in a church before. I was like, okay, well, I'll pray right now. And so I knelt on that kneeler, and I just knew I was home. And then all of a sudden, tears started coming down my face, and it was just this moment where I knew there was something. I didn't know exactly what yet, but I knew there was something there. I knew it was home, and that those were the words that were in my mind at that time. Were I'm home. This is home.
Yeah.
And so I started going to mass in the evening with my roommate and going to the Methodist church in the morning for the next for the next few months to a year and try to figure things out. But that was the beginning of it. It was actually about 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years before I actually ended up converting. So
Hmm.
I came into the church in Easter of 2015.
The Lord works in funny ways.
He really does, yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And then
Yes,
and you
sir.
got started performing just because it was and playing music and writing music just because that's kind of what your dad did and that's what you grew up around.
Kinda. My dad owned a landscaping business. I mean, he still does, and so he owned a landscaping business growing up, and that's what he did. That's how he made his living. But he discovered around the time I was probably like 3 or 4 that he really liked writing songs, and so he started making trips to Nashville with his friends and writing at home in Texas on the or during the week and in the evenings. And I saw that, and I just loved country music, and I decided I wanted to do that too. And he used to stay up at night with me on the weekends, showing me songs that he'd written or other people had written, and explaining, what was great about the songs, or how he wrote the songs, or the parts of the song, and just learned how to write songs by listening to songs with my dad. And I just fell in love with it. And I found out that there was a school in Nashville called Belmont University that you could get a degree, and then work in the music business and have a degree with influence in the music business. And so that was at Belmont University. Found that out when I was like in 6th grade. And that's all I wanted to do. So I applied and moved to Nashville and worked in the industry as an intern for a couple years while I was in school. Graduated early and then started working in the music business. And so there's just always been this desire to write songs and tell stories through songs. And so my dad was a huge part of what drove that.
Who would you say were your strongest musical influences? Who did you listen to growing up, and who's influenced your singing and songwriting?
Yeah, well, that's kind of funny. The answer would have to be my dad, because that's probably the songs when I'm really thinking about songs and writing and style and how things sound. I learned everything from listening to my dad's songs
Hmm.
and work tapes that he had. I mean, he had work tapes, just songs. When you write a song, you kind of record it really quick. Now you can do a whole lot more with it because there's just so much more available to you. But back then, it was you record it just on a tape, and then you've got a bunch of these work tapes on your cassette tape, and he would go bring those home, and I listened to those, and then over the years it was on the computer and other stuff, and so I could just go back and listen to those. And he had all sorts of artists that are now famous, like Tim McGraw and Keith Urban, just work tapes from songs of those guys in town. And so I really listened to work tapes that were like being passed around Nashville because my dad would bring them home with him, and I just loved those songs. And I fell in love with a band called The Ranch, which was Keith Urban's first band. And that album, the Ranch album, actually really influenced me a whole lot. But I'd have to say, if I was, what overall really influenced me was my dad. I loved all the country music that was on country radio back in the '90s, like Garth Brooks, Keith Urban, Clay Walker, Tracy Bird, Mark Chestnut, Joe Diffie, just, I mean, all sorts of people. I couldn't really pinpoint one, but I would say through the years, as I've really started, I guess, honing my craft and learning to write the way, in my own style, one of the songwriters other than my dad that has most influenced me would be a guy named Roger Miller, because I love the way Roger Miller writes. It's kind of quirky, it's different, but it's relatable, and it's a lot of the times
That's the Roger Miller
conversational.
of "Don't Roller Skate in a Buffalo Herd." Is that
Yeah, that's
we're
actually one
talking
of my
about the
favorite
same guy?
songs.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite songs actually.
yeah,
So yeah,
he's
Roger
quite a
Miller.
talent.
Yeah, yeah, Roger Miller. And then again, there's a guy named Dean Dillon who my dad always used to play me Dean Dillon songs, and that was where I really learned the conversational kind of like piece of songwriting. But so my dad, Roger Miller, and Dean Dillon, I guess, would be the top three influences.
Do you like performing, writing, or touring or recording? What is it that you like the most?
I like all of it, to be honest with you. If if you were to give me all the money I needed to just do whatever I wanted, because I've been asked that question before, I would probably say um, I would sit in a room every day, write songs and record them. That's what I love doing. But I also love playing. I love playing. And this question was actually asked to me last week, but it's not just playing out that I love, it's playing the songs that I've written because for
Mhm.
whatever reason, it's like I'm communicating with people through that because they're important to me. There's stories that I want to be heard, and there's part of me that loves that, and I love touring, I love traveling, but I guess when it comes down to it, I love writing songs and producing is um, really what drives me.
Mhm. So why put your Christianity at the center of your music? I mean, I'm sure there are other Catholic country artists and
Oh
even
yeah.
Protestant country artists that put that aside, but you put it at the very center. Why did you decide to do that?
I had no other option.
Mm.
I I've prayed about this for a long time and I've fought with it for a long time too. I started putting out music in 2016 as an artist at the end of 2016 and then had success down in Texas. And there's a whole circuit down in Texas, Texas radio that you can, get into kind of like the Nashville market, or if you're up in Canada, Quebec has its own thing. And so does Canada has its own Canadian country stuff. But, so I came down to Texas and had a song that was on over 60 stations, and it's called "Don't Mess with Texas." And it was my first, attempt at being an artist, but also I was newly Catholic.
Mm.
And when I put that song out there, it did really well, and I'm still really proud of the song. But we started to figure out what songs were going to be put out next and what it was going to look like. And every time I did a radio interview back then, people were asking me the question like, well, so tell us about the song and the story. And there was a story behind the song. A lot of it had to do with my conversion.
Mhm.
And I found myself, because Catholicism isn't really talked a whole lot about a whole lot in country music. It's pretty, most of the church and God type lyrics in country music tend to be more Protestant driven or
Right,
middle of the road, where you just don't really,
right,
there's no real specification of what they're
right.
talking about. It's just in general, which is fine, and I love a lot of those songs. But um, I found that when I started talking about my Catholic faith, people were either kind of like kept me at arm's length or like unsure, and I was like, well, I was the same way. I don't really. I don't really understand why people have this perception of Catholics. And so I was like, well, how do I talk about this? Because I kept beating around the bush or trying not to be so specific about my Catholic faith. But I was
Mhm.
like, well, that's not really doing anything for anybody else. That's not really sharing the depths of my soul. Like, why am I Catholic? I'm Catholic, honestly, because of the Eucharist. I mean, there's a whole million other reasons, but I'm Catholic because of Jesus. I'm
Mhm.
Catholic because of Christ in the Eucharist, and that was what I found when I was trying all these other churches. Was like, I can't receive the Eucharist in any of these churches, and it has been such a gift in my life. And it is the truth, and it's a hidden truth that nobody, all these other denominations, a lot of times are oblivious to. And I'm like, I'm not doing them any favors by beating around the bush
Yeah.
and kind of hiding it. And there's this fear when you're a Catholic musician or artist. It's like, well, I don't want to separate myself and be Catholic because I may not get to go play this church gig, or this network may not have me on that loves to talk
Mhm.
about Jesus, but they're Protestant,
Right.
and I may not get that gig, or somebody may not like a Catholic, and I'll be kept from opportunities. And so there's this big fear, and I was like, well, you know what? There's just really no reason for me to hide this anymore, and I need to be more specific about it, and I need to share it because living a Catholic life is not boring, and it's not. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of weird perceptions about being Catholic,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of it has to do with the scrupulosity and the religion piece of it, but those things are things that are actually freeing to us as Catholics.
Right.
And once you discover that, it really just kind of turns everything on its head. And I was like, well, if I shouldn't be hiding this any longer. I've got to be more outspoken about it, and in a loving way,
Yeah.
extending charity and being merciful. And
Have
extending
you
grace
seen
to
that? Have
others.
you seen that change? Has that gotten better? Are people a little bit more open these days?
Um, I think so.
Yeah.
It's um I don't really know. I don't really know. I just try to keep moving forward and not pay too much attention to the naysayers because people can be kind of mean and say some weird stuff
Right.
sometimes. And so,
Sure.
but people are always going to do that. And
Hmm.
so, it's, I mean, I've had some really good responses to it this year. I mean, honestly, this has been something that I've been more vocal about here in this last year. And
Uh-huh.
it's just like, okay, God, if this is what you want, here I go, and just guide me and help me make sure that I'm saying the right things and saying the things that you want me to say.
Hmm.
And so it's been pretty good. It's
Yeah.
it's well received at the moment, I guess.
Good, good, good. I mean, I
Yeah.
hear stories that, there's a lot of people, especially younger people and young men, that are coming to the church or coming back to the church. So maybe, you can be part of that, or I know you're a part of that, but you can even maybe hopefully you'll see some better response to your performing. You're a little bit different. You do like house parties and
Yeah.
things and church concerts. Talk a little bit about that. How can people see you perform?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll play a whole bunch of this next year, in different spaces. One of the things I love doing, like you mentioned, are house parties because usually I'll either go in with another musician or another artist and play this house show. And so the crowds are anywhere from 35 to 100 200 people
Hmm.
at a house or in a backyard. And you really get to meet people there and you really get to share the music. And so you go in and play these shows that are, you know, 45 to 75 minutes of your music and you get to tell stories. You get to talk about Jesus. You get to talk about how you wrote the song, what influenced you to write the song, and why you love this music. And you really get to meet the people and see, their reaction to the songs and get feedback and just build relationships. And so I love playing house parties, but I'll also play a bunch of retreats in a bunch of churches as well.
Hmm.
Catholic speakers brought me on earlier this year, and they've booked a whole bunch of events for me this next year that I'm really excited about. And so if people want to find out more about how to book me, they can go to catholicspeakers.com and book me there. And so I'm playing different kinds of venues, but
Hmm.
they're the shows that seem to be most effective for what I do and also the most enjoyable for me because I'm getting to share my faith and I'm not hiding any of who I am
A certain
like I
amount
was
of
in the past.
freedom to doing that for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
So you have a song to perform for us today, and
Yeah,
it's a Christmas song, correct?
yes, sir.
Well,
Yes, sir.
what do you want to tell us about it before you start?
Yeah, well, I we talked about my dad a few
Yeah.
minutes ago, and my dad wrote this with me, and a
Oh.
buddy of ours, Patrick Kelly, he had the idea for it, and so it's called Christmas on Main. I live, or actually went to high school in a town called Grapevine in Texas, and they're now the Christmas capital of Texas,
Oh.
and we've got a big Christmas tree that they put up every year at the middle of Main Street, and Main Street's all lit up. And I mean, you can't drive down Main Street in any less than 45 minutes during Christmas time now because there's so many decorations. But we decided to write a song about Christmas on Main, and the real reason we have Christmas on Main, Jesus, and so we wrote a country song, country Christmas song about that. It's called Christmas on Main.
Very good.
Christmas on Main, where they light up the tree, families gather to see. Christmas on Main, where year after year, so many memories are made. Maybe there won't be snow this year. Town hall still all decked out. There's kids eating candy canes, feeding reindeer, laughing their way through that Main Street crowd. There's church bells ringing, carolers singing, sleigh bells on that train. Christmas on Main, where they light up the tree. Families gather to see Christmas on Main, where year after year so many memories are made. Christmas on Main. There's ribbons hung from lamppost wreaths. Joyful feeling fills the square. Storefront windows light up red and green. The girl spots Santa. She stops and stares. There's church bells ringing, carolers singing, sleigh bells on that train. Christmas on Main, where year after year so many memories are made. Christmas on Main, yeah, light up the tree. Families gather to see Christmas on Main. There's neighbors and strangers, a baby in a manger scene. Yeah, and he's still the reason for our holiday season. That won't ever change. Christmas on Main. Christmas on Main, where they light up the tree. Families gather to see Christmas on Main, where year after year so many memories are made. Christmas on Main. Christmas on Main. Thank you.
Bravo.
Appreciate
Great
it.
job.
Thank you,
Bradley
sir.
Banning, thanks so much for being with us today on Catholic Forum. If any of
Yes,
our
sir.
listeners or viewers would like to get in touch with you, book a show, buy some of your music, get more information, is the bradleybanning.com the best place to get that information?
It is. Go right there and you'll find everything you need.
All right, very good. Bradley, thanks so much for spending time with us today on Catholic Forum and for sharing your wonderful talent. And I hope you and your family and your dad and everyone has a really wonderful Christmas season. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
God bless.
God bless.